Let's do this. Whoa, we're going to have a day. It's FT Live, Scott Braun, Erik Kratz, AJ Pierzynski, and in a few minutes, Ken Rosenthal. Jesse Rogers from ESPN will join us soon. Lucy Burdge later on. Kendall Graveman and Brandon Belt in hour number 2. But that's it. Just a light guest list today, including my all-time favorite player in Kendall Graveman. And if you're on the outside of that joke, then stick around. But AJ, I had to avoid you today. Somehow I got out of Studio AJ and quickly scurried over to Kratz's spot because I guess I had a heads up that shit was going down in Chicago.
For real. Well, it was your birthday, and did something happen in Chicago yesterday? Because I mean, my phone hasn't stopped ringing for about 18 hours now since the news broke. It's been an interesting 18 hours to say the least because I thought I heard a rumor about something weird happening in Chicago that I'm not sure. Did we call for it on this show? I'm pretty sure we did.
I'm pretty sure we've definitely covered it at length, and we will continue to do that right now. So let us charge the damn mound. Powered by Teaser. We need all the energy we can get today. Okay?
I'm throwing one in just for the energy.
Throw one in, baby.
Because I think AJ needs one.
Yeah. I'm excited today to just kick back, relax, and watch AJ and then eventually Ken and the rest of the entourage get after it. So what's that clock we have? Oh,
AJ's White Sox.
I'm eating it up already. So if you
wait, why is this a rant? Why can this not be a positive thing? Why can this not be a yeah, we did it kind of thing? Like a positive, like, listen, I never want to see anybody get fired, okay? Never, ever do I ever wish upon anybody to lose their job, lose their livelihood, or not be able to do what they love the most, which apparently for Kenny Williams, Rick Hahn was run the White Sox. At the same time, we called for it. We've talked about it. We had Lance Lynn on here. We talked about Keenan Middleton. We've talked about all these things on here more than we should be talking about a team that's 27 games under 500, around that mark, right? They've lost a bunch of games in a row. They've gotten pummeled the last few nights by the Mariners, and they just can't seem to get out of their way. The thing that for me, we're going to get into with Ken and Jesse, and I've been on the phone all day. I talked to people, is how this went down and why this went down is what my major issue with the whole thing is. First of all, it happened in the middle of the season. Okay, fine. GMs get fired in the middle of the season, yada, yada, yada. But why the timing of this? And I can't wait to talk to Ken and Jesse about this. If you read the press statement, at the end, it told you that Jerry Reinsdorf already had who he wanted. Why? Because at the end, it said it will be filled before the end of the year. Now, are there GM candidates out there, president candidates out there? Absolutely. But the names you see that most people are saying, Kim Ng, Dave Dombrowski, even a Theo Epstein, he's not coming to the White Sox. Sorry, White Sox fans. He's just not. Okay? Because Jerry's not going to pay him enough. That's the whole nother story. But Kim Ng is in the middle of a playoff race with the Marlins. She's not going to leave the Marlins, a team that gave her a chance as GM, to come to the White Sox, to a team that's going to have to rebuild again, when she can stay in the Marlins and say, look, I've already done this for a year, and I can be this. Dave Dombrowski's not leaving the Phillies. They went to the World Series last year, and one of the hottest teams in baseball right now. So why now? Because Jerry Reinsdorf already knew, and Bob Nightingale said it. Chris Getz and Dayton Moore. Now, whatever you want to think about Chris Getz and Dayton Moore, they have one thing in common, and it's the guy who is now a consultant who was the manager of the Chicago White Sox last year. Guess who that is? Tony La Russa. Who is Jerry Reinsdorf's best friend? Tony La Russa. Who did Tony La Russa say was one of his favorite people in baseball? Dayton Moore. Chris Getz worked under Rick Hahn, Kenny Williams, okay? Basically third in charge in the organization. Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams did not want to hire Tony La Russa. They wanted someone else. Jerry hired Tony La Russa. La Russa gets blamed. He gets fired. La Russa gets in Jerry's ear. Says, Jerry, we need to make this move. Boom. Happens like that, right? Who does Tony hire? Dayton Moore. Who's one of Dayton Moore's best friends? Chris Getz. Boom. There's your thing. When they hired Pedro Grifol, where was Pedro Grifol a coach with for many years? In the minor leagues with Dayton Moore, Chris Getz. Rumor from people I've talked to, Chris Getz had a lot of power in the hiring process for the White Sox this offseason. So if you look at it from the outside and you start digging in a little bit more, it makes a lot more sense if these rumors are true about Chris Getz and Dayton Moore.
We're just getting started, so let's bring in our guy, Fair Territory star, FT Insider, the Athletics Insider, Ken Rosenthal with us right now for all this juicy news. Ken, great to have you on. Want to get your take. And also, we didn't get to this yet. Should we ask AJ if he was in consideration for the front office role?
No.
We can get to that later. First of all, one thing that needs to be said right off the top was how surprising this was, considering Jerry Reinsdorf's history, both with the Bulls and with the White Sox. He is considered perhaps the most loyal owner to employees in his sport, in either sport. And that has been his hallmark. He has stuck with Ken Williams and Rick Hahn for this long. Ken Williams has been with the organization more than 30 years. Rick Hahn, more than 20 years. So for him to do this, obviously he felt a change was necessary. Now, getting to the idea of Chris Getz and Dayton Moore. Dayton Moore is an accomplished general manager. Of course, he won a World Series. He also was Pedro Grifal's boss in Kansas City. Pedro Grifal is the current manager of the White Sox. But if Chris Getz is going to be the general manager of this team, I have some serious questions. Chris Getz is running a farm system that even after all the White Sox trades during the deadline, still ranks only 22nd according to Baseball America. They made all those trades, got all those prospects. They're still only 22nd. It's not like there is a fountain of players coming from that farm system. So what is Chris Getz's qualification here? I have no idea. He has not been a GM. He has not been anything more than a farm director. He is in the inner circle, I guess. But you know what? The White Sox need to get away from what they've done in the past. They need to bring in some fresh ideas, a fresh individual to run their team. I'm with AJ. When I saw that the statement said a person would be in place by the end of the season, my immediate reaction was, yes, they've got someone in mind. And Bob Nightingale did report Chris Getz is probably the guy. There are so many others out there you can look at right now, not Dave Dombrowski, Kim Ng, current executives. I'm talking about James Click, who won a World Series with the Astros last season. I'm talking about John Daniels, who might not be ready to get back in after the Rangers fired him last year, but he has been to the World Series as well. There are others too, assistant GMs, people all over the sport who would come to your organization and bring you fresh ideas. The White Sox have been arguably too insular. Well, if they hire Chris Getz, it's another insular move, and it's one that is going to raise a lot of eyebrows and get people scratching their heads throughout the sport, which seems to be a White Sox tradition.
It makes sense, Ken. I mean, listen, there's so much to this story that doesn't make sense from the timing of it. Kenny and Rick were on the field for batting practice yesterday. Had no idea. Had no clue they were getting fired. They get fired between 4:30 and 7 p.m.? How does that – I mean, explain that process to me, right? I played with Chris Getz. I like Chris Getz a lot. This is not a personal knock on Chris Getz at all. He has been the farm director / whatever the title they've given him for 7 years with the White Sox now. Find me an impact player they've developed. Find me a player that hasn't been a first-rounder or a high pick that they've developed out of nowhere to become a major league fixture. You look at their roster, it's all guys that Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams traded for or signed as free agents that have had an impact on them the last few years. Because if you look
at number one picks like Vaughn.
Well, in number one pick, I mean Andrew Vaughn, Gavin Sheets. Yes, I get that part of it, but they haven't found the diamond in the rough to make an impact at the major league level. They haven't developed guys from a 12th round pick, right? Boom, 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 worked them up the ladder. Oh man, this guy can contribute even as a platoon guy. There's not those players, and Chris Getz is in charge of this.
And keep in mind also, AJ, that's a much different job than the general manager job. The general manager job is much broader, involves much more. You're overseeing the farm department, the amateur scouting, the professional scouting, the international scouting, all of the administrative details, the analytics, everything falls under your purview. So you've got to be someone capable of doing that. And listen, no one knows if Chris Getz or anyone else for that matter is capable until they get the job. That's fair for anybody who is a first-time GM. But for a team like this, a team that needs so much work to be done, I would say any first-time GM would be a risk. Any assistant GM they hired, let's say, from the Dodgers who hasn't been a GM, that guy or that woman would be a risk too. So from that perspective, if this is the choice, I do not understand it. They are not without hope. And I wrote this today. I spoke with 5 executives last night from other teams. Their view of the White Sox is, 1, Chicago is a great city. 2, Reinsdorf is loyal to his employees. And 3, You're playing in the American League Central, the weakest division. You're in the biggest market. You've got probably the most money of any of those teams, or at least the resources to do some things. This should be a sleeping giant. And yet you don't know, or you shouldn't have much faith that the White Sox are going to turn it around and make themselves into that giant because of these kinds of decisions that have been made over the years.
Okay, so now I'm going to take off my foul territory hat. Bloop. And I'm going
Nice
to put
hair.
my white. Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to put my White Sox fan hat on, okay? As a White Sox fan, why should I be excited about this hire? There was so much excitement on Twitter, X, Instagram, whatever social media platform you are about, okay, it finally happened. And again, I've talked to Kenny Williams. I've talked to, said, Kenny, I appreciate, how much respect I have for you and what you did. You brought me to Chicago, so thank you. Brought me a World Series, okay? I never want to see anybody get fired, no matter what your feelings are for him. It's not where I am. But as a White Sox fan, I'm thinking, okay, this happened after all this time. All this time. Kenny's been there for 30 years. Rick's been there for 20 plus years. They're going to go out and they're going to make a home run hire, a splash hire that makes people say, okay, we're turning it around. And then they go to the third in command, basically. Organizations are leveled differently, but you have the GM, the president, or whatever, Kenny's executive vice president. Then you had
GMs too. Yeah,
Kratz was an assistant GM, right? He was assistant
he's in
GM,
the hierarchy.
Director of player. He's in the top 5-ish, 10-ish of the organization. Okay, great. But then you go get Dayton Moore, okay? And then you have Pedro Grifol. Is this the 2019 Royals we're looking at here? I just don't understand. If I'm a fan, and everyone knows I'm a fan of the White Sox, why am I excited about this hire? Now, listen, I hope they do great things because I want the White Sox to do well, but this is not a sexy hire, not an exciting hire, not from the outside looking in. Again, this is as my fan, and I want them to do well. This is not a home run hire for a lot of people. It is a typical White Sox, Jerry Reinsdorf, love you, Jerry. Let's just be loyal to the people and just take the next person and put him there because Jerry knows him and I'm comfortable talking to him every day, and we'll go from there. And then I have Tony in my ear saying, oh, I love Dayton Moore. You should bring him on board too.
AJ, you just said it. This would be, if it happens, a Jerry Reinsdorf hire. And that makes it all the more curious. And Jerry Reinsdorf, as the owner of the team, is entitled to do whatever he wants. But as John Greenberg wrote in The Athletic today, the guy who should be fired right now is Jerry Reinsdorf himself, because he has overseen all of this, and he is the architect, ultimately the one in command, and this is where they are. So you're absolutely right. If you're a fan and you're hearing the news today that the likely people to run this team are Chris Getz and Dayton Moore, you're probably not too excited. You're probably wondering, well, what vision of theirs is going to be different than the vision we've seen already. And I'd be more comfortable if it was Dayton Moore as the head guy, the president of baseball operations, and Chris Getz maybe as the general manager below him. I don't know if that's going to be the structure or if it's going to be as we think, Getz atop with Dayton Moore at his side. But Dayton Moore at least has done this. And that's my problem here. I don't know Chris Getz very well. And of course, I'm not saying this in a personal manner, but just look at the record, what he has accomplished as farm director or not accomplished, and what he has done as a front office executive. He hasn't been in this role. So again, I'll say it one more time. Not to say that a first-time general manager cannot succeed. That's absurd. Of course, a first-time general manager can succeed. Everyone in this job is a first-time general manager at one point. At the same time, in this organization's evolution, where they are now, they need someone to figure out the farm system, to patch together the major league club. They have some pieces. Luis Robert Jr., Dylan Cease, and a few others. Andrew Vaughn's one, maybe Eloy. They've got some guys to build around, but they have to do it, and they have to do it in a more efficient, better way. This organization needs basically an entire upgrade in terms of analytics and infrastructure. You need someone who has done this job, who can come in and start snapping his fingers or her fingers and saying, all right, here we go. I'm not seeing that happening with the current people that they're talking about, at least with Getz, if he's at the top.
Is it plausible that they could start trading more guys off? They allowed all these other trades. Is it plausible that we would see that, or are they going to keep the guys that they've kept? They've been culled. Everyone's been culled out of the system, and now they're going to add to it. Which is more plausible? getting rid of these guys they have, or this offseason, hey, I'll sign another Benintendi type, or is this a 3 to 4 year rebuild?
Erik, I'm going to give you a bit of a circular answer. When I covered the Orioles for the Baltimore Sun way back, it was hard to think along with Peter Angelos because he would do kind of the opposite of what was logical. The White Sox, as we're discussing, often do the opposite of what is logical. So the logical thing, in my opinion, is if you're firing your top two executives, you clearly want the team to go forward now and build back up again. Jerry Reinsdorf is 87. I can't imagine he wants to go into even more of a rebuild. They just came out of one. So my guess is that, yes, they are going to take those core pieces and add to them and try to supplement what they have and try to do some different things. Am I convinced of that? Am I certain of it? Let's put it this way. I wrote a column last night listing people that I thought could be potential White Sox GM candidates. Chris Getz wasn't on that list because I didn't believe that they would stay internal. Now it appears they are staying internal. Again, hard to think along with Jerry Reinsdorf.
But isn't this the easy hire? I think what Bob said is that Dayton Moore is going to be the president, Getz is going to be the GM. So I guess Dayton Moore will oversee.
That I would understand more. That's fine.
That obviously makes more sense.
Yes.
But this seems like, I mean, again, we've talked about it. Like you're saying, like what, they're going to go out and add to this. Well, who are they going to add? Because the free agent crop this year, they need pitching. It ain't great in pitching wise. They're not going to sign Shohei. I mean,
there are
going
a
to
lot
have to
of
trade
pitchers,
people.
though. Well, hold on. There are pitchers available. The market is deeper in pitchers this offseason than it is in hitters. But it's more than that. It is making shrewd trades. It's also waiver claims and Rule 5 picks and all of the different ways that you can get players that teams employ now. Go look at the Mariners bullpen, for instance. A bunch of guys that really were not big names, were not big trade pieces. They were waiver claims and other kinds of freely available talent. That is what an organization needs to do, in addition to spending money on free agents and drafting and developing and working the international market. You've got to find players on the margins. White Sox have not done a very good job of that.
Well, who was in charge of that?
Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams.
And?
Jerry Reinsdorf. I mean, what are you asking here?
Chris Getz.
Chris Getz is not in charge of
developing players.
That kind of thing. Developing players, absolutely.
Yes, he is, 100%. And he goes around and sees players in the minor leagues, and he tells them, hey, this guy's in the minor leagues. We need to get him, right?
No, that's not really his role. His role is to develop their own talent internally. Yes.
Okay. Well, you said, but development's going to be a big thing, I feel like, for the White Sox because, we know Jerry. Like, you can say the surprise and this and that, but Jerry's not going to spend a ton of money. He already did that. It didn't work when he got La Russa. He brought in Lynn and Graveman and all, Hendricks and Joe Kelly. Like, the list goes on, right? Jerry's not going to do that again. So how are they going to have to get the players? Trades and developing. And they haven't done and again, this is just the fan side of me. Under Chris Getz, they haven't developed players to a point where when they come, you look at organizations, you look at like Tampa, they bring up dudes and they're like, damn, these dudes are ready to go. They lose Wander Franco, Basabi comes up and you're like, okay, this kid ain't bad. He's ready to go, right? The Cardinals, they always call up these guys and say what you want about them, but they're usually ready when they get there. It's the White Sox. Oscar Colas was supposed to be the guy. He had to go to AAA, and I get it happens, but he still doesn't look ready, right? There hasn't been a guy in the last, other than, even Andrew Vaughn, right? He was a first-round pick. He was third overall. He's been good. He's been serviceable.
He should be good.
Yeah, exactly. But he should be your third overall pick. You should be a guy you're like, oh, man, this is a core guy for the next 10 years, right? But I'm just looking at it from the outside, and you're like, who have they come up with under this regime who they just took the guy who was in charge of the development, and now you're going to put him in charge of everything? Who has come up and done that? And to me as a fan, this is just me as a fan, it hasn't happened.
Well, there's another side of this as well, too, and he's a frequent guest on this show, Lance Lynn. We're talking about major league coaching and development and all the things that go into it, analytics. How is it that Lance Lynn statistically is one of the worst pitchers in baseball, ERA, home runs allowed, with the White Sox? He goes to Los Angeles with the Dodgers, and suddenly, voila, he's back to being the old Lance Lynn, if not better than the old Lance Lynn. That, to me, is perhaps the most damning thing to happen to the White Sox all season long. That suddenly he's this successful because obviously they unlock some things. Why aren't the White Sox unlocking some things? And it's not what you're addressing with Chris Getz. AJ, it's not. But at the same time, they've got to get that straight too. They've got to get a lot of things straight. And frankly, this is not a team that really has embraced analytics to the same extent as other clubs. Dayton Moore, kind of the same category. They have it in Kansas City and had it when he was there, but I don't know that they've done it extensively as some other teams. And as much as you hear from fans, particularly in New York with the Yankees right now, oh, we got to get away from analytics. Sorry. No team is getting away from analytics. And some of the most successful teams in the sport, the Dodgers, the Rays, the Astros, I can go right down the list. They use analytics to their absolute advantage. Are the White Sox doing that? I would suggest the answer is no.
Hey, Ken, while we just have a few minutes here, you broke the story about Pete Alonso. Can you give us more information about what you heard and what that tells you about what the Mets might be thinking this offseason?
Well, Scott, the story was simply that the Brewers made a push for Alonso at the deadline. And how close they came to making that deal is kind of a matter of perspective. The Brewers thought they were somewhat close. One source told me within field goal range. The Mets dispute that. They said it never got to a point where really it was that close to happening. Regardless, the real question here is, what are the Mets going to do with Pete Alonso? One more year of club control after this year. He is a unique slugger in today's game in Mets history. First met with 435 home run seasons. His next home run will be his 40th. He will then have 340 home run seasons. That's more than the entire organization in its history combined. So Pete Alonso can be your linchpin going forward. Will the Mets sign him to an extension that would begin in his age 30 season? I'm not convinced that their analytics people and their general manager, Billy Epler, want to do that. Do they want to go long-term with Pete Alonso? That's a real interesting question, and we're going to find out the answer eventually, because either they trade him this offseason, and as the Brewers' interest showed, any team can take on what his salary will be, $21-22 million in arbitration, his final year, or do the Mets seek to sign him to an extension? And the third option would be allowing him to go to free agency the way the Yankees did with Judge and try to re-sign him then. Judge is an interesting comp here, and not statistically so much as Judge is a guy who proved he can thrive in New York. Pete Alonso has done the same. There's value to that. And as I wrote today also, if you keep putting together 40 home run seasons, as Alonso has, you're going to be on a Hall of Fame track. The Mets have only 2 players in the Hall of Fame represented with their uniform on their plaques. That would be Seaver and Mike Piazza. So all of these factors kind of combine into the whole stew and the whole decision-making process. But we'll see where the Mets go. Now, people say, well, Alonso's going to require an 8-year deal, a 9-year deal. Not necessarily. Paul Goldschmidt got a 5-year extension, and Freddie Freeman got a 6-year free agent deal from the Dodgers at ages that were even beyond Alonso's. So yes, he could argue that he wants more years, but you can do a 5-year, 6-year deal for high dollars, high salaries, and go about it that way. Again, this is a decision that the Mets are going to have to make. If they want to trade in this offseason, they'll be able to, but the greater value would have been at the deadline when he was available for 2 pennant races and not 1.
Yeah, fascinating story in that they didn't pull the trigger. And also, just for me, following him for a long time, is that they didn't go after him earlier. I mean, he's been really good for them for a while. I just was surprised that he was the guy that kept lingering and nothing ever circulated there. Ken, great stuff. We'll catch you again very soon. Welcome back. Welcome back to the fire.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And Fair Territory is there, as always, of course. Check it out this week. And then we get this news from Ken. I'm sure he'll cover it more on next week's episode. And that is a very aggressive charge to the mound, powered by Teza. Use discount code FOUL for 20% off your first order at TezaEnergy.com. If you have friends that are dippers, tell them get off of that crap and move on. No nicotine, no tobacco, the whole deal. All right. First poll question, QR code on your screen or watchstadium.com/foul territory. The 2024 White Sox season will look like terrible, better than this year, a rebuild, a playoff contending team. Okay. We'll ask Jesse Rogers about this as we get more into this White Sox dilemma next.
JD, we got a mutual friend, little brother to me, Jesus Ramos. We've seen each other in Mexico. But I had to hit him up. And he said, first thing that came to his mind is, in college, how did you get the nickname Bubbles?
So I'll keep it short. So when Rick Vanderhook was at Fullerton, I came in as a freshman to Fullerton. I was pushing about 240 to 245 pounds. If you could probably put 1, 2 together, I had a big old butt, big old belly, big old head. So he called me Bubbles. And I don't know, I don't know where he got that name. I think it was the song that came out at that time. It was called Bubble Butt. And so that kind of stuck with me. So as my rebuttal, I tried to lose as much weight as I can. So it went from Bubbles to Bubs as a short name. So I still kept it. Every time I go around Fullerton, that's my nickname, and that's what's been stuck over the years. So it's I'm gonna get it back for that. I'm gonna get it back for putting that on TV.
That's a new one, Jonesy. You're doing the good digging there.
That's good
Good homework.
And now back to foul territory.
Back at it on Stadium, Braun, Kratz, Pierzynski. We had Ken. Now let's go to our guy, Jesse Rogers from ESPN. And Jesse, we had you on recently. We got to double down. This is quite the shakeup and quite the timing, and really even details that I didn't know. Like, they were on the field yesterday, didn't even know that they were getting canned. I guess they hadn't been told yet. So give us what you got, and then we'll follow up.
I mean, a lot of it is what Kenny had to say, to be honest. I don't know what the tipping point was for Jerry to pull the plug yesterday, right? Game 2 of a random series in August instead of right after the trade deadline or right at the end of the season. I don't know what that tipping point was. And in some ways, the firing of both guys is very shocking. But for any other organization, it would be very normal. They failed miserably in this rebuild, and because of that, you lose your job. In fact, Dayton Moore lost his job in Kansas City last year, in part because they weren't advancing. Al Avila in Detroit last year. So the 3 bottom teams in the AL Central have all turned over their front office. So, like I said, in a lot of ways, it just kind of makes sense. But for this organization, it's very, very surprising. And just kind of to, play off of what Kenny had to say and AJ had to say, it just feels like in general, this team operates at like 75% capacity. And I might be being generous. And what I mean by that is at every level, it's not just one area, the manager, player development, player acquisition, analytics. It feels like while other teams like the Rays or Astros are working at 110% capacity, the White Sox are more like 75 or less. And again, that just encompasses everywhere. And so, like you guys, I'm surprised in some ways that they're staying in-house if they do, in fact, promote Chris Getz. But when I saw the end of that press release, like you guys said, if he wants it in place by the end of the year, that means he has someone in mind, and most likely it's internal. And my final thought is this, whether it be Dayton Moore, Pedro Grifol, Chris Getz, I didn't buy into this last offseason, this idea of hiring from a losing organization. I mean, there are good people that work in losing organizations. But now that I've seen it up close for a year now, whether it be Pedro or again Dayton or Chris Getz, there's probably something to people that are around winning every day and around winning organizations every day, and they know what it looks like. And in any of these people, if they're hired, there's none of that. There's none of that. I joked all year that if there was a change, go hire the security guard down in Tampa Bay for the Rays. He probably sees winning more than the White Sox or Chris Getz at this point. So that's my feeling. I would like somebody that has done or been around some recent winning.
So what I see the White Sox missing is accountability. Are they bringing in accountability with these two guys? And to me, I think it's, from an outsider's viewpoint, it's Jerry keeping people around. And so when you're always like never firing people, the accountability aspect is like you have to be able to be accountable to other people and telling other people, including Jerry, you're wrong. And that's why I thought AJ would be a great GM. He doesn't want the job. So they moved on to the next. But are these next two guys, are they accountable enough? I think Dayton Moore is. I played with Chris Getz. But will Jerry allow these guys to, or is it more of a Jerry thing and it really doesn't matter who he brings in?
Well, let's at least give credit that Jerry actually held some people accountable for the first time in decades, at least at the front office level. So he saw the dysfunction. Maybe he read it in that Keenan Middleton piece, I still think the best thing he said in that piece is shit rolls downhill. And that's exactly right. And maybe Jerry kind of realized this is dysfunctional and we need to make a change. But like you said, is it really making that big of a change when you're hiring the guy that worked under Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, that learned under Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams? So it's a weird thing. Like Kenny, though, I give everybody a chance. Maybe there's some incredible ideas that Chris Getz was never allowed to implement because he wasn't in charge. So, of course, you give everybody a chance. But on the surface, I'll go back to what I said. I would have liked to seen someone that was around winning more recently. But to your point, at least they finally held some people accountable for this failed rebuild. I'll give them that much.
Jesse, obviously we've been around the White Sox a long time, you and I both, and you covered the White Sox when I was a player, and we've known each other for a long time. Kenny's been there for 30-ish years. Rick was there for over 20 years. And yes, Jerry finally held him accountable. And was it the Keenan Middleton interview? Was it Lance Lynn on our show backing up Keenan Middleton that finally opened Jerry's eyes? We'll never know unless Jerry talks, which Jerry doesn't do a whole lot, okay? When I was with the White Sox, and you'll back me up on this, Ozzie and Kenny, it's Kenny's fault, it's Ozzie's fault, we're going to argue, blah, 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 right? Then they get rid of Ozzie and they bring in Robin, okay? And then they promote Rick to GM, Kenny to vice president, whatever his title was, right? And they're like, okay, it's going to be different now because Ozzie's not here. And then it became, well, Rick wants to do this, and Kenny wants to do this, and Rick and Kenny, and yada, 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 and they're fine. And we even heard it this year with the burger trade, right? People are like, well, Rick made the trade. No, Kenny made the trade. No, Rick. No, who really made the trade, okay? And then from people that I've talked to, they say that Getz, as the minor league field director, development, whatever the title exactly is, director of minor leagues, he was always trying to do things, and Rick and Kenny wouldn't let him, right? So now he has all these grandiose ideas that but he learned from those guys. So it just seems like from the outsider, again, you're there way more than I am, but they're looking at it like it's just more of the same shit, right? It's just going to be another, like, oh, well, Getz got the job because he blamed Rick and Kenny, and Jerry finally saw it because Keenan Middleton talked and Lance Lynn talked, and then, oh, well, he has all these great ideas because maybe Chris Getz has, and again, these are just things I've heard, and I'm not putting facts on it because I don't know, but because Getz somehow got Jerry's ear and was like, well, I have all these grandiose ideas, but Rick and Kenny won't let me do them. So now it's like, oh, well, I'll try Getz's ideas and see if they work. It just seems like more of the same retread. And if you're going to blow it up, like we've talked about on the show, you got to blow it up all the way. For me, from an outsider, you got rid of Rick and Kenny, fine. But you got to go field coordinator, minor league director, whoever, right? And start over and let the guy at the top hire his people all the way down, not bring in another guy that has been there for 7 years.
Yeah, like you said, it feels very circular to do something like this. You made this bold move, firing both executives, and then you just hire the guy that learned under them. Not to say he doesn't have some different and maybe better ideas, but this is about sort of risk reward and maximizing your situation. You have a clean slate. Like I said, go out and get the best lieutenant on the Dodgers, the Astros, the Rays, people that have been around winning and see it every day. Stop operating at 75% capacity. I think there's some truth to all of that. You go back to those hirings after Ozzie. I mean, it was clear they wanted a manager that would kind of fall in line. Let's face it, Ozzie, sort of went his own way a lot of times, but it was successful, at least for a long time. And so, look, from Robin Ventura to Ricky Renteria, now Tony was a departure, and I don't think Rick or Kenny really loved that. But then back to Pedro Grifol, these were first-time managers that certainly the front office could, I don't want to use the word control, but have their finger on more than a Tony La Russa, more than an Ozzie Guillen. And that didn't work either. So it's just going back to what I said, operating at less than capacity in a very competitive professional sport. And it doesn't feel like it's going to change a lot if they continue with internal hires, unless Getz or someone else is very special and we don't see it just yet. I'll give them that chance to be that way, but it doesn't feel like they're maxing out a situation where they could start over and start big with someone from the outside.
I agree, Jesse. I know you're a Cubs fan, but as a White Sox fan, I want Chris Getz to succeed, right?
Okay. Have to get that in.
Yes. Did you hear my theory, I guess you would call it, before when I started digging in this morning into the whole transaction? Why now? Tony La Russa is back with the White Sox. Strange timing, okay? This thing happens. Tony and Jerry are best friends. Tony gets in Jerry's ear and says, hey, it's time for a change. It's not working. Blah, 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 blah. Well, guess who didn't want to hire Tony La Russa? Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams, right? They wanted someone else. He says, well, you should fire Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams. Okay, Jerry's like, okay. Then he goes, well, who should I hire? Tony La Russa, on the record, has said Dayton Moore is one of his favorite people he's ever been around in baseball. So guess who? Boom, right? Guess who's best friends with Dayton Moore? Chris Getz, right? So it's like, it's all, and again, this is like 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but it's like 7 degrees of Tony La Russa getting his revenge, right, for Rick and Kenny not wanting him. And again, this is all speculation. Just if you start digging around on the internet, you start finding all these weird coincidences, I guess you can call them. I mean, has anybody dug into like the timing and why this happened now? And maybe Tony La Russa still is pulling the strings, even though he's not the manager anymore.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt that Tony still has Jerry's ear, whether it's an official capacity or not. I didn't need to see a tweet today. As long as Tony is healthy enough, he's talking to Jerry. It might be still daily, as soon as his health came back. So I don't doubt he has his ear. It doesn't have to be in any official capacity, but it could point to why the timing happened yesterday. I suppose you throw Tony in the mix. We don't know exactly how that plays out. But the bottom line is Tony's been in Jerry's ear. There's no doubt about it. Maybe in a more intense capacity more lately as Tony got healthier. I don't know the answer to that. But look, Jerry, it's not like Jerry is friendly, I don't think, with all the new age executives and even owners. Like, he's an old school guy, and that he goes back to Tony La Russa the first time around, as we all know. So yes, that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, how much power or say Tony has, I don't know for sure, but we know he has his ear. I think we can be safe in saying that.
Hey, Jesse, so last time we brought you on, which was the first time, I was like, I can't wait to get into some Cubs. And we ran out of time because of the damn White Sox just stealing the show from the actual playoff contenders. So we're going to step aside if it's cool with you. Quickie 2-minute break. And then we'd like to get to Cubs with you for a few minutes if that's cool. Just split up the time that way. Also, I think AJ needs to take a few breaths.
I'm leaving while you talk Cubs. I'll be back when you guys get back to the...
That's fine, dude. That's fine.
Jealous.
I'm jealous they're in the playoff race, yes.
We'll be right back on Stadium with Jesse Rogers to talk about a team that's actually good. Back at it with ESPN's Jesse Rogers. You can follow him at Jesse Rogers ESPN. And this morning he came out with a more positive story as well, because the team on the other side of town is actually surprisingly quite good. And so is a former MVP in Cody Bellinger. So you wrote about it, you put it out there. Are you surprised at how good Cody has been this year for the Cubs? I've heard some of their front office guys say, hey, we knew that the defense and the base running would be there. And we didn't know what Cody would look like with his swing.
I'm surprised how quickly it came together. I thought it would take more time, and he was really good in April, missed a month and came back just as good and even better since the All-Star break. I mean, EK and AJ, you guys can talk about this. I mean, Scott Boras was telling me for a year, just wait till his shoulder's better, wait till his shoulder's better. I'm like, all right. But I guess it's true, man, and you guys could talk about it. I mean, if you don't have strength in your shoulder and you're trying to get to every pitch at the major league level, it just wasn't working. He just did not have barrel control because his shoulder was so weak. And the pandemic and the lockout contributed. I don't know exactly why. I couldn't see the best doctors in the world even during the lockout. But whatever the case may be, he got healthy, and that changed everything for him. I think the change of scenery and different voices probably helped as well. Just start over, start anew, and you see what he's doing. And I just love the trade deadline story. You don't often cover a team that goes from buying or to selling or selling to buying as quickly as the Cubs did. And they literally were one loss away from maybe doing something differently. And if you remember, near the deadline, Mike Tauchman went over the wall to save a game in the ninth inning with 2 outs in St. Louis. They scored 17 unanswered runs after being down 3-0 to Washington in one game. So if anything goes south on them, they may have been sellers. And it was all kind of through the eyes of Cody Bellinger. In fact, I like to joke that, with Yankee fans, the Cubs surge really tanked the Yankees because they were all in on Cody Bellinger. And I think he probably could have helped save that lineup because there's just no balance in New York. So it's a fun team to watch. And final point is we compare the White Sox to the Cubs here in Chicago. I mean, you think about organizations, here's an owner who will spend money, who will give the power to his baseball people to do what's necessary. The transition from Theo to Jed was pretty smooth, but Jed didn't stay in-house. He hired Carter Hawkins from Cleveland, an organization that knows how to develop pitching. And so Carter, who also helped bring in Dansby Swanson as Vanderbilt guys, he brings his expertise. I mentioned the Sox running at 75%. It feels like right now the Cubs are running at 100%, and it's showing up on the field in a big way.
Wait, you said the Cubs spend money? So that'll be great for Bellinger, right? I mean, he's going to be number one on their list, right?
Well, number two after Ohtani. I think they're going to make a push for Shohei. And if it's not Shohei, they have to go get Bellinger. You guys have been on the show before. Anyone that listens to me, left-handed sluggers, they are so much more important than any other person in your lineup. Switch hitters, right-handers, you need left-handed sluggers. They don't grow on trees. Ohtani and Bellinger at the top of their games. The Cubs need at least one of them.
I want to follow this by saying, why not both? Why not both? Why couldn't you lure Ohtani into Chicago with everything that Chicago has to offer? And, oh, hey, by the way, yesterday, we just signed Cody Bellinger to $210 million. We have plenty of money left for you because we print money here on the north side.
You sound like one of our sports radio callers in Chicago. Sign them both. That's not my money. Tom Ricketts is good at his job. As I just mentioned, I feel like he's a pretty good owner. He's not Steve Cohen, okay? He's not the Padres guy. So I don't know if he'd go that far, but it's a great idea. Look, every great team has more than one great lefty. Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper. We could go down the list. The great teams have it because you see so many right-handed pitchers. You need left-handed slug. And even Bellinger is just one guy. Happ hasn't shown that kind of slug this year. So a Bellinger-Ohtani tandem, great. I just don't know how they pay for it. But look, the Cubs brand goes worldwide even more than it is if they sign Ohtani. So they could probably afford any two guys if they want.
Lastly here, just a number, or just give me an up arrow or down arrow for Cody. $200 million. I'm going to
say up because he's left-handed. If he was right-handed, I'd say down. But there's so much. I mean, Brian Cashman should back up the Brinks truck. They need him There's Toronto needs him. The Cubs need him. I'm going to say, first of all, it's Scott Boras. So you know it's going to be north of $200 million just for that reason.
AJ, you good?
Yeah, I just wasn't listening. I was eating my candy pop, and Jesse was putting me to sleep with all this crap Cub talk. So
Sorry that the team that's contending doesn't have as much drama going on right now. Jesse, it was really fun and timely to get you on here. Really appreciate it, man.
Anytime. Be well, guys. Take care, AJ. See ya.
Thanks, Jesse. See you, buddy.
Enjoy your snack, AJ. Thank you, Jesse Rogers. Give him a follow. Check out that story on ESPN.com. We have Kendall Graveman coming up pretty soon in hour number 2. Let's go over our locks for tonight next.
Thinking of a song. So I'll go like this. So there's always 2 songs. I'll say this one song. I forgot who sang it. Now you're gonna put me on the spot right now. But with the assistant hitting coach Dustin, there's 2 songs that I always sing. One song whenever I get out. One song whenever I get a hit, and that's the song. But and I will always love you, because it's a baseball song. Because I got a hit. So I'm happy about it, and I'm back in love with the game. So it's kind of, and that's what I got for you right there.
Yeah, let's go.
I'll walk right in the cage, and sing that. And if you hear that, that means I got a hit. And baseball gods are on my side now.
Love that.
Crawford is still up to his ways. He's making brackets here and there. We just had a bracket in which to figure out the fantasy football draft order in which to pick where we're going to draft in. We just had a bracket for that. What else did we have a bracket for? But anyways, what else would you ask? But there are still shenanigans. We still got the whole club scene when every time we win. We got the smoke. We got the lasers. We got the wacky inflatable guy that's going on in the clubhouse. We've got some of our clubhouse guys that got light up shoes, light up glasses, light up vests every time we walk in after a win. Kind of like a Tron suit in a way, if Tron the movie. Heck, we got poker tables across the clubhouse. We got a little putt-putt in the middle of the clubhouse. So the shenanigans are at an all-time high in the Giants clubhouse, and just keeps things light and fun.
And now back to foul territory.
Lucy Burdge back with us on Stadium. It's Kratz, it's Braun, it's Pierzynski. Lucy, great to see you. How are you? We've had a very tense first hour, so hopefully you can bring us some peace and some winning picks.
Yeah, oh, definitely. That is exactly what I'm here for. I didn't know you could swear and eat snacks on this show. I mean, that's just the greatest thing ever.
Okay, so next time you're on, I expect an F-bomb and your favorite snack.
Yeah, I will bring some fucking candy pop M&Ms next time. I believe there are also some Oreo version of that, so you better fucking believe it. I'm gonna bring those next time.
Don't bring the Oscar Mayer Wiener straw. Okay,
you guys,
please.
I need to get my hands, so to speak, on one of those because they are sold out for today. I tried to sign up to get one sent and it said try back tomorrow. So I'm going to set my alarm for midnight and try back tomorrow because this is no trick or coincidence that they made them not dishwasher safe. You have to hand wash the hot dog straw. Just saying, they know what
Lucy,
they're doing.
You can make one on your own. I'm just letting you know. You can go.
I did. You know what, AJ? I did last year. When that fan did it, I made my own hot dog straw and drank coffee through it. Oh. And I wouldn't say, I'd recommend doing it. But if you want to live on the edge, maybe once in your life, try it. It's not as pleasant as it sounds,
That's good DIY.
I'm going to stick to my candy pop.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. So I got some business to take care of. Number one, we're closing up the poll for White Sox next year. Most fans saying terrible. Some saying it'll be like a rebuild. That's like the two worst answers that are leading the charge. Number 2, your free game of the day. If you want to avoid the Chicago madness, Twins Brewers in the Midwest is what you should be watching. Those are 2 playoff teams, okay? It's the MLB free game of the day streaming on the BetMGM app. Live streaming is available to all BetMGM customers as long as you're logged in and you have a funded account, okay? Now let's do our BetMGM locks for Wednesday. First, we backtrack. Better. You're actually rarely cold lately.
I'm so cold. 5 straight right now.
You got to just follow the heater on Tuesdays. The FT heater is incredible. We got a nice little boost from the FT heater yesterday. It hit with Verlander's K's and the Astros money line. Here's where we're at. Is AJ still with us or is he snacking?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a rough day.
Yeah,
Sad day yesterday.
We all have rough days. It's
rebound.
fine.
Yankees once again disappointing the nation.
Yeah, it's really great. Even Susan Waldman saying they're boring. So that was really funny. They are boring, and that they get swept all the time. I think it was a very great weekend. It was the last piece of happiness Red Sox fans will have, I think, is sweeping the Yankees.
But wait, every day on Twitter, you say they're going to win the World Series. Which one is it?
They will. They will. And, it's just the Astros. Once they get past the Astros, it's smooth sailing. Definitely. The Dodgers will be fine, and the Dodgers will lose every game against the Red Sox. And they will win the World Series.
Also, I don't think she said the year. I don't think she said the year. So they
Just
might
the World Series.
Yeah, just the World Series. All right, we got
the
2 minutes. Everybody's got to throw their picks in there. So, AJ, what's yours?
I'm going because Lucy's on, and also because Mercury is in retrograde. She hit me on Twitter with that today. I'm going Shohei Ohtani heavy today. I'm going 7+ Ks for him against the Reds, who strike out a ton, and I'm 1 hit. All I need just one little hit, and he usually rakes when he pitches, so I just need one little tiny single.
I like that very much because they say with Mercury retrograde, intuition is very high at this time. Coincidences are extraordinary. So I think that was just what I read today about it. So I think that that's a really good one because I thought of that today as well. So intuition right there, AJ. I like that.
What is your intuition to make us some dough today?
Yeah, my intuition is moving me toward Mookie Betts to have over 2.5 total bases. He has hit this in 3 of his last 4 games and in 4 of his last 6 games. And he had 3 runs and 11 total hits in those last 6 games. 1 of them was a double. Xavier Curry starting for the Guardians against the Dodgers. He's given up 15 hits over his last 3 starts. So I think this is a great spot for Mookie Betts to go over 2.5 bases in this game.
I love Ohtani for 7+, a walk, and I love Abbott for 4+ strikeouts. And they're giving that to me at +100. I'm even buying it up more and more than that because I think Ohtani is going to get more like an 8 or a 9 here. I feel like he's the stopper that they need today.
And I'm going to go Blue Jays-Orioles game. This was how AJ reacted the other day, surprised that, I don't need much on that front. 4.5 runs total from those 2 high-powered offenses, but I have to couple that with Gossman's K's. I was like, I don't love where it's at the 6.5 number, so I'll buy that at 5 plus the run total, and you add it up, and I'm at -120. So there you go, 120.
I like it.
Those are 2 good offenses. They're very often hitting the over, especially when Baltimore's at home. So if you are new to the party on the BetMGM sports app, then get on there, okay? And you can play the BetMGM MLB free-to-play game depending on the area of the strike zone that you pick. You'll get a single, double, triple, home run, pop out, and receive the prize associated with that type of hit. You can play once a day. Prizing must be used on MLB and expires in 24 hours. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Oh, and then also, you can see the $20 bet that we run on the weekends. Okay, Lucy, you got a home run pick for us?
I sure do. Marcell Ozuna to hit a home run. He has 3 home runs in his last 2 games. Don't look now, but he's done this before. He has done this before where he has hit 3 games in a row where he has hit at least 1 home run. So back in July, he hit 2, then 1, then 1, I believe, or 1, then 2, then 1. So he has done this before. There's a pattern here. Coincidences are extraordinary. Don't forget. So I think he will complete tonight the 4 home runs in 3 days Marcell Ozuna challenge once again tonight. Home run for Marcell Ozuna.
Anyone else with homers?
I got one.
What do you got? Nobody?
Who am I?
Rosarena.
Boom!
Oh.
Thank you. Off Gomber. Gomber lefty, pitching to the Trop. He's a local guy. He's going to lay one in there. Randy's going to hit it to Randy Land.
I need a little smirk, though, AJ. You were a little too serious. That was
hold
like
on,
a bouncer.
Hold on.
There you go.
There it is.
Very nice.
Lucy, thank you as always. Great to see you. And we're excited to see your snacks and your F-bombs next time.
Oh, you better fucking believe I'm going to do that. Motherfuckers, I'll be back with some snacks. Don't worry.
Thank you. The great Lucy Burdge with
Thank
us
you guys.
on BetMGM for our picks. Okay, so coming up in hour number 2 on FT Live. It's been hot, okay? We'll continue with our player conversations. We'll get to Kendall Graveman, who ends up back with the Houston Astros, and I'll break the news to him that he is, in fact, my favorite player. Also, we have to get to Brandon Belt. You know Brandon Belt's skit, right? With his quotes?
Yeah.
You know, right? I mean, AJ, you know?
Never
You know
talked to him.
Okay, well, we're going to have some fun with Brandon as well. He throws things out there in post-game press conferences sometimes where he's kidding, but people don't know he's kidding. It is a fantastic bit, okay? A lot to get to. Flip over to our YouTube channel.
So I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me, and I can't hold it much longer. Gonna let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's hour number 2, Foul Territory Live. Let's do this right from the jump with our next guest, making his debut on the show. It's Kratz, it's AJ, it's myself, and Kendall Graveman from the Houston Astros joining us right now. Kendall, great to see you, man. How's life back in Houston?
It's great. Love the show, guys. Thanks for having me on. And I've watched plenty on YouTube. I've had to see what Lance Lynn has to say a lot. I know you'll have him on a lot, so it keeps me interested.
Thank you.
Kendall, I don't recognize you because last time I talked to you, had a big beard and you were a White Sox, and now the GM and president and everyone else is gone, and you're gone in Houston. So I think maybe Lance Lynn put it over the top for you guys.
Yeah, he gave me a hard time for shaving my beard, and I just got tired of giving up too many runs. I'm not superstitious, but I said, screw it, I got to go. So we shaved it one day, and everybody in Houston looked at me like, who is this guy?
It's working. It's working in your new place. So is it the beard or is it the new place that you're playing in?
I think physically I'm feeling good, and throwing the ball well here in Houston feels like home. Coming back again, a lot of the same guys. I mean, it's you step into the clubhouse you've been in. The guys that was here in 21 when I got traded, and for me personally, this place is special. Group of guys that they have here, you can see what they've done in the past, the track record, and you have a lot of the same guys. And even when guys that were building pieces like Correa and some of the other guys that leave, they seem to always find a way to put somebody in that position that's just as good and creates a great culture here.
So the White Sox weren't a great culture?
AJ.
I'm just stating the facts that I was hearing from someone else. No, I'm happy for you because we've talked a bunch, obviously, when you were in Chicago, and you and Lance are buddies. The problem I have with you and Lance being buddies is that he went to Ole Miss and you're a Hail Stater, so it's like, how are you guys friends? Because those two just aren't supposed to work.
Yeah, I called him in the offseason before when I was a free agent, thinking about coming into the White Sox. And the first time I talked to him, and I I said, hey, this is Kendall Graveman, and I dropped a Hell State on him, and he never let me live that down. So every time I talked to him, he reminded me that the first thing I said to him was Hell State, and there was always a little rivalry there.
I love the way that you answered him, AJ.
It sounded like my mom. He sounded like my mom when I
was.
do something. Or my wife. My wife's like, age? Really?
That's what it sounded like, and I love this dynamic here because so you're kind of like AJ's AJ, I don't want to say AJ's mom, but you said it, AJ, and disciplinarian. You keep AJ in line because we need that. We need that, especially when Scott's at my house. He's normally at AJ's house. But what you didn't know is the guy who's really nervous is Scott Braun. He is so nervous and excited that his favorite player, Kendall Graveman, is on here. So before we show it, do we have
the clip?
Do we have the clip?
No.
We don't have the clip, but essentially Todd Frazier thought that Scott was infatuated with you. So how does that make you feel that you have a stalker?
Let me give more context though before he goes, because I mean he does watch the show, but maybe not every day. So like 2 weeks ago, Kendall, we do our show in Atlantic City every other week, so we have our live show in front of an audience. And at one point, just randomly, Todd Frazier goes, "Dude, you always talk about Kendall Graveman." It's one of the most random statements of the year. Like, Kendall, respect you. Great pitcher for a while. Your name has come up a few times. Like, actually, I think in that previous week, we brought you up because Sewald's on the show all the time, and he got dealt from a contending Mariners team. So, but somehow Kratz, if you're looking at him like, I talk about Kendall Graveman as much as any other player. Like, someone went, who does Scott Braun talk on this show about? I don't think you'd be one of the first, 50 guesses. So your thoughts?
You might be the only one. I don't hear my name thrown around a lot. So, whatever made that happen, I appreciate it. And I mean, hey, keep it going and get my name out there a little more.
I think the only other part that comes to mind is I did a few segments with Todd for other places too that interviewed us, and they were like, "Hey, what was your favorite team moves at the trade deadline?" And I was pretty adamant because I think Todd kept saying the Rangers, and I felt like the Rangers did a great job, obviously picking up a ton of great pitchers. But on the Houston side, I'm like, two super quality guys, right? One high leverage bullpen arm, and of course Verlander coming back. So for you to steer it in that direction, how wild is it that you go back to Houston, Verlander goes back to Houston?
Yeah, I told the guys when I got over here, I'll throw whenever. Like, it doesn't matter. I told every team since I've become a reliever, it doesn't matter leverage, non-leverage. I just want to help a team win. I want to pitch in games, and my goal is to always go out and get outs. And then for me to see Verlander get traded over, it did something to our clubhouse. It boosted the morale here. He brings an expectation when he's in the clubhouse that, hey, it raises the level of intensity. It raises the level of focus when he steps foot in the clubhouse. I had never seen it personally, but I'd heard from multiple guys in the clubhouse that that's what it was going to do. And I think it certainly has. And for me to be around him for the first time, I didn't realize how just eat up with baseball he is. That's all he thinks about. He just really, he plays golf, but other than hobbies, drinking wine maybe would be one of his hobbies, and knowing a lot about wine. But other than that, he's always communicating about baseball. He's always trying to make people around him better. And then you have Maldonado behind the plate who does the same thing. And kind of going a little bit off topic, but those guys, when they come in the clubhouses, it creates a bond and a culture, and everybody knows that this is what we're here to do, is to compete and play baseball and win baseball games ultimately for this organization and the fan base.
Seems like what you want to do. Seems like you want to win, right? You're a free agent. Like, you're signed through till next year. Can you give us a little bit of insight on why you signed with the White Sox then?
I don't know how it says. Eric, fuck off.
I have to go, Eric. No, we played against them in the postseason. When I was with Houston, I thought from the outside, what a opportunity. The city of Chicago is amazing. I think it's a place that has a lot of potential, and I don't think you're too far off. right now where it sits, honestly. And I think that the fan base is always there. They're loyal. I think Reinsdorf is going to get it right. I think that moving forward, I'm honored and privileged that they actually gave me an opportunity to pitch. I live by these two rules. I'm going to be as prepared as possible, and I'm going to give you 100% effort every time I step foot on the field. I told Pedro that. I told Dusty that when I got over here. And then execution, we can't always execute. You guys know that in this game, you're going to not execute sometimes. I'm going to try to throw a fastball in. I'm going to miss over the plate. But at least I am prepared, and I know that the fastball into that hitter was the right pitch, and I gave you everything I had. I can go to sleep easy at night knowing that. And that's kind of what I live by. And I think that as many guys you can get in the clubhouse to do that, which I think they'll get right with whoever they hire as a GM over there, then that place could be a special place to play.
I love you're just so perfectly politically correct, Kendall. It's amazing. But last night, where were you when Justin Verlander told Alex Cora to fuck off?
I was in the bullpen.
Did you guys hear it? Did you guys hear it on the mic, or did you have any idea until after the game?
I threw the 7th inning right after him, and then I came in the clubhouse. And so Justin doesn't say a whole lot before his start. He's AJ. He's one of those guys, the headphones in, straight ahead. Don't say nothing to me during my start day, but he likes to talk. So after his starts, he likes to get his words in. And we were communicating, talking in the clubhouse when I came in after the game. And the first thing he pulled up was, "Hey, I think the hot mic caught me dropping an F-bomb to Alex." And he showed it to me. We both laughed about it. And it's, you know how it gets in a game. Tempers flare a little bit. And I thought it was perfect what he said.
Here you go. Well, here's your shot to listen again in case you haven't seen it. This is great.
Yeah, typical
That's
Verlander.
the good stuff, Kendall. Do you feel like we need more of that in the game so people can see like that's good, clean fun, a little like trash talk, like get out of here, dude. I've been in the league for a while. I'm not trying to stall.
Yeah, no offense, and I understand what Alex is trying to do there too. So, just a little chess match there, trying to throw him off and see what he can get done, accomplish for his team. And I mean, that mic's pretty hot though. That concerns me a little bit of how well it picked up the audio. And with PitchCom, I don't know how well you could pick up audio from the mound if he wasn't even screaming, but that was something that was pretty loud.
Do you think that we should have everyone mic'd up all the time? Do you think there's a future like that? Sometimes I got you, AJ, but sometimes there's people on social that'll kick around like, hey, I'd pay a couple $100 if there was a mic'd up only channel, right? And it, added money for the league that I would hope at least some of it would go to the damn players. Well, yes, obviously. We know we have problems there. The Orioles are poor, but obviously.
Okay, the Orioles get extra, then the players get,
they need more revenue sharing. But in all seriousness, Kendall, like, do you think there's ever a world where players would maybe not go all out, everyone's mic'd for every single game, but should we amp up miking players, because it does often create gold and most fans love it. And if you give them the option to have like almost like an alternate feed, I think that satisfies everyone if they don't want to hear everything.
I think there's a uniqueness to not having it every day that keeps people eager. But I also think that about 5% of the league you can mic up every day without somebody getting offended potentially. So I don't know. Once you get inside the lines and the adrenaline gets going, things get said that aren't really personal to the other team or the other players. Would it add some kind of comedy and I think some entertainment? Absolutely. There's stuff that's said inside of a clubhouse or on a baseball field in a dugout that I find myself in the off season just kind of reminiscing on and laughing about.
Let me take you back to JV for a sec too. So when he departs the Mets, and obviously that was a crazy situation and ends up back with Houston, there was like the one the unnamed person that was like, oh, he was kind of bitching about how our pitching operation was run. And we on this show, at least most of us, that from what I remember, were like, what's wrong with that? He goes to a team. He's been part of some very successful franchises, including Houston obviously knows how to pitch, and he's trying to give them advice on how he thinks shit should be done. I haven't gotten to read the whole article yet, but the Mets are actually redoing like their pitching operation. So for you, I know that's Justin's thing. I just want to know on the Houston side, because you've bounced around to some ball clubs, what are some things that you can tell us that stand out about what they do, what they have? Because we always get into the analytics conversation. I think it's so much deeper than that because it's information, and Houston clearly has that to the utmost degree, and they're able to communicate that to players like you and JB.
Well, I think it starts from the idea of the spirit, just the spirit of excellence from the top down. Jim Crane, what he's done with this organization and turned it around, and from every small detail that you think is small, that there is an intention to it. That's where it starts, and it trickles down. Everything flows down from the top, and it starts with him. And then now Dana doing a great job as a GM. But the analytical side of it, I think that's what Verlander's alluding to too. Is it also is just the spirit of, hey, we need to be perfect in this department, because you can't technically put a number like you can per se on a player with a WAR. If you agree upon WAR, whether it be F WAR or B WAR, you can at least put a number on what that player brings value wise, outside of the intangibles that we all know are important. But then you look at this department and the analytics of also hitting, knowing pitching, and being able to be prepared for a game. That right there can win and lose you 4 or 5 games a year, maybe even more. And that could be the difference in you making the playoffs and or winning a series in the postseason. So teams that do it right, the Astros absolutely were ahead of the curve. And I think that's given them an advantage also, that they've had more years of experience in it. And then now they're just fine-tuning and tinkering certain ways that we can continue to get better as pitchers.
Who are you guys going to need to beat in the playoffs to win the World Series again this year?
Well, we need to beat Seattle and Texas to get in the playoffs. And, I mean, you're looking at this division right now, it's tight. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. So for us, and Maldi alluded to it the other day, we got swept by the Mariners. You guys, I'm sure, have talked about it or heard. Maldi said it felt like a slap in the face. And that's what good teams do. You get swept. Somebody steps up and says, hey, this is not our brand of baseball. Let's focus on us. We're too focused on other teams in our division. Let's just focus on what we can do to win a baseball game, and then let the chips fall where they are at the end of the year. But right now, what we need to do is clean up what we got going on and continue to compete and win baseball games. And it sets a standard moving forward. And we've won 2 games since Maldi said that. And I think Maldi was absolutely correct in saying it.
Hey, can you take me inside and we have him on the show anyway, but what Paul Sewald would be feeling when Seattle's a good ball club? I mean, I at least have been saying that all year, AJ. But
Dude, you're so you jumped so far off the ship.
I did not. So Paul leaves. They're playing well. Obviously, it doesn't have to do with Paul. They could use Paul. They need another high leverage reliever in the back end. It's just the uniqueness of how the Mariners run as an operation, right? They love to wheel and deal. They're not afraid to wheel and deal from their big league roster. My one gripe was, I'm like, cool, go for it. You need some bats like Rojas and Canzone. Trade from your minor league system. They just didn't choose to go that way. You have been in the very same position 2 years ago when the team didn't make the playoffs after that point. You guys were in the mix. Guys were pissed. They spoke publicly about it. So can you take us through, what Paul could be feeling right now? He's on a contender, so he's good, but just the shock factor of, the Mariners pulling off deals like that versus most other ball clubs not trading in that style. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a different way of going about it. But, I mean, hey, hats off to the way he's running as a GM over there. And it seems to work. I mean, it broke a 21-year drought and trying to do it again this year. And they needed some bats, and the arms in the back end were great. And they had a piece in Sewald that they felt they can get something. But as far as what he's feeling, Sewald had been there longer than I had. His tenure there had been longer than I had been there. But the relationships that are built when you get traded, and then trying to figure out a new team is difficult in the middle of the season. And for me this year, it wasn't as difficult, like I mentioned earlier, because I came to a place I was familiar with. And you can start to see outside of the game and people listening that don't quite understand, when you get traded, you're trying to find a place to live. You're trying to move your family. All of that you have to compartmentalize very well. And Sewell's not throwing the ball the way he wants to right now. I know that. I know who he is as a competitor, but he'll settle down. He'll figure it out, and he'll get back to who he is. And that, to me, the Diamondbacks needed somebody. So it's also great to feel wanted when a team trades for you.
What did guys say to you when that happened to you 2 years ago?
Bro, I've never seen so many people cry in my life. Like, they were so upset, man. And I think it was because the journey I'd gone through with the benign bone tumor in my cervical spine that I just had to battle through, going from a starter to a reliever, and coming off Tommy John surgery. I hadn't pitched in the big leagues over 2 years. And for me, I just tried to care for each guy there and build relationships. And outside of the game, we were going through COVID. We'd gone through, at that time, a president saying some stuff about our team. And I spoke to our team about that and to our organization about that and how it made us feel. And just through small individual conversations, I built strong relationships with the teammates there. And that really hurt. And if you remember correctly, the game before that, we had just hit a grand slam when I was with Seattle against the Astros and was only a few games back. So all the emotions, there was a feeling like there was a shifting of a tide at that moment in that division. And then the next day I show up to go to the throwing program and they say, hey, you got traded, just walk across the hall. You're going to the Astros, which ultimately I played in the World Series for this team, and now I'm back. So I can't be too upset about it.
No, you should have a smile. Like, things worked out pretty well there. I want to bring this one up for the two catcher hosts we have on with us right now. So it was the ALCS, and I want you to tell the story. I think once I say a few key words, you'll know. 3-1, changeup for a strike to Shaw, Maldonado calling for it. You know what I'm talking about? And you hadn't thrown the pitch in, like, I don't know, 2 months or something like that. So just taking us through that story, and I want to get these guys to react to how crazy that was and if the credit should be given to Maldonado for throwing that out of nowhere.
Yeah, I got over here and we started throwing the four-seam more. I knew four-seam going in to Shaw at the top of the zone was a great pitch. It was a game or two before I faced him, and I threw a four-seam at the top of the zone, and he hit a ball to the warning track. It was one of those that for a split second, your heart skips a beat because you think you hit a homer, especially here in Houston and right. It's pretty short out there. Tucker catches it on the warning track. So that's in the back of my mind as I'm pitching. So there's a couple of unconvicted pitches at the top of the zone that got me to 3-1 because I couldn't miss down any, knowing that in the back of my mind it was a homer. So we get to 3-1. I'm shaking. And Maldi hadn't called changeup because I hadn't thrown it in 2 months. He comes out the mound. I remember vividly, Correa comes from short. It's me, Correa, and Maldi standing on the mound. And he said, what pitch do you want? And I said, I want changeup right here. And I was 100% convicted on it, even though I hadn't thrown it. I threw a 3-1 changeup and painted it away. And I saw Shaw looking in the dugout like, what in the world was that? Because all the metrics weren't on the board at the time, but the velo was. So he looks in the dugout. I said, all right, I've set him up to beat him at the top of the zone. We throw a four-seam by him, and we strike him out, throw him out at the end of the inning. And that was a special moment. So for me, I bring it back to total conviction. And then in that moment when I told Maldi, hey, I want changeup, he didn't second guess it. He said, let's go. And we went and executed a pitch, 2 pitches in a row.
So that conviction in a pitch, can that waver if your catcher sits there and is like, hey, bro, whatever you want to do? Because we've talked about it with some teams that have brought some guys in that are just like, you do you.
Yeah, 100%. And you guys know it as a catcher. I don't care if it's the wrong pitch. If the pitcher is 100% convicted in it, you guys can actually add, when you're catching, an extra element of conviction by saying, hey, yeah, that's it, let's go. And in that moment, I mean, the place is going nuts. It's first and third, I believe. Yeah, it's first and third because Verdugo had just hit a ball off the plate that bounced over the first baseman's head. So, I mean, we're in a tight ball game. And to be calm in that moment is also important from a catcher to say, hey, yeah, that's it. And let's go execute.
It's cool.
I like it. Catchers
Great advice.
deserve more credit than pitchers.
100%.
Okay, so I want to make sure I get this on my phone. So Lance was texting me.
Oh boy.
And I said that you said to Hail State, and he said F State. So do you have a response for Lance?
I have no response for Lance. What is it? He's going to get on here and say something next week when he gets on, and he'll be laid back with his hat on, and he'll just be throwing 7 shutout innings. And so I got nothing for Lance. I texted him the other day and said, "Hey, you can't go 100 pitches anymore. He went 7 innings, 85 pitches." I said, well, "You got over to LA and got a little soft. You can't even go 100 pitches anymore." So he knows where I stand.
All right, I love it.
What was his comeback?
I said I was going to Canes to get a Caniac combo, and he said, "Yeah, you better get all 6 of them." So he loves Canes just as much as I do. So we were good after that.
Hey, you can't love Canes. You can't love Canes if you're a Mississippi State guy, because
yes, you can.
The Canes guy's an LSU guy, man. He's paying all those dudes to go to LSU.
Yeah, but he's got the chicken finger figured out.
You go cane sauce? You go cane sauce or what?
Oh, cane sauce, Caniac combo. Give me a little extra fries. Hold the slaw. We'll be good.
There you go.
All right.
Hey, so
That's an order.
Those northern guys. Hey, Kendall, those northern guys on the big screen, they don't know nothing about Canes.
Stop.
Don't understand it, AJ. They don't.
Stop it. AJ was just on here the other day talking about Buc-ee's. Now he's talking about Canes. He ain't got no. He's such a fence. He rides the fence so much. Wait till you get off of here. Then he's going to be all over Brandon Belt when he's on the show. Like, whatever.
Chicago deep dish, whatever.
No, not a deep dish guy.
Okay.
Thin crust.
What's your? So you've seen Lance on here. Either what's something that made you laugh about him coming on here, or do you think it's cool for someone like Lance to finally have a place where he can be Lance? And just because you know him, he was very excited when he heard about this show. And we've had others like Rowdy Tellez has. He's a different character, but same kind of deal. There are guys in the league that are like the most entertaining, open books, but it's like all like, it's all good, clean fun. So your thoughts on having a spot like that where, we felt like obviously it wasn't there in the past.
I got a bone to pick with Rowdy. I drafted in the 8th round for $5,000, and then they drafted him late and gave me all my signing bonus money. So dang it. He got like 800 in like the 20th round because they saved money on me. So you're welcome, Rowdy.
That was with the Jays, right?
Yeah.
God, I will never forget that. $5,000, and Uncle Sam got half of it. So that to me still sticks with me. But I think I told Lance. The moments that I'm excited for him going over there. But I said, hey, in LA, there's a few more cameras that are on your face. So keep saying the words you're saying. Just be careful. And he was laughing about it. So he dropped quite a few the other night when he was pitching.
Kendall, I have to ask you before I let you go, because I'm an adopted Mississippi State fan now because my daughter's going to go play volleyball there. Will Mississippi State score a touchdown against Alabama this year?
They'll score one.
Okay.
They
went like
in the fourth quarter
they scored the last play of the game last year, remember? And they had broke like a 5-game streak of losing and getting shut out. And they scored like the last play of the game this year. Do you think that momentum carries over and they get one this year?
Yeah, momentum carries over. I think you get one late again in the 4th.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm not paying close attention like you guys are, but I think I got all I need to know right there.
Who do you want to see? Who do you want to see on this show that you haven't seen on the show yet, Kendall? Who would be a guy that you played with?
Joe Kelly.
Has Joe not been on?
No.
Oh, that's a guaranteed. You got to have Joe.
Yeah, that's a good
what are we
one.
waiting on? How'd I beat Joe? That's ridiculous.
We've had a lot of dudes on. We have not gotten Joe. All right.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll talk about his book too. So let him on.
We'll let him plug all of his businesses,
everything,
his merch, his
Thanks,
book,
guys.
His whole deal. Hey, Kendall, great to have you on, dude. We appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Cheers. Awesome. Kendall Graveman from the Houston Astros. Great stuff. Love that. Yeah, Joe Kelly, that's a good one to add to the list. We got to get our elite guest booker on it. Stat, please.
There's like, I've never met Kendall,
Yeah.
And there's guys that come on and there's, you know their backstory, you know what he went through, the injuries and stuff. There's certain guys that are locked in, and some guys are like, oh, yeah, I'll pitch whenever, whatever. They're saying the placards. I believe that to 100% out of his mouth. Like, you can just see, almost like you can kind of see it in his eyes. Like, he's like, let's do it. But then you listen to what he says. The way he talks about stuff. He's not just saying placards. Like, that's a dude you want in the back of your bullpen. 100%.
Plus, he's an FT fan, so.
Yeah, well, that helps.
Now he really is my favorite player.
Now he really is.
So let's get back to that BSBLR Viral Hit of the week. So Kendall Graveman helped us out with a little breakdown of JV and Alex Cora, and that was cool. JV, after the game, getting to it as well.
What did he say at the beginning? I heard the end of it.
The good part.
What he said to Alex.
He said, I didn't say that stuff or something. He's like, I didn't say that, Alex. Sounds like he's like, I didn't say that, Alex. I didn't say that. And he's like, fuck off, Alex.
Well, can you explain what the situation is?
It was like Cora thought that Verlander was, you know how like the pitch clock is like boom, 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 boom. And they were kind of getting to him a little bit. And it was later in the game. And I think they thought that Verlander was faking the pitch com, which I have encouraged for the whole season now if you want an extra timeout. And so Verlander is like, I can't hear. So he went over to get a new pitch com. And I think Alex Cora was accusing him of faking it. And that's when he's like, I didn't say that. And then, we don't know what Alex Cora was saying, but the best is when he's just like, fuck off, Alex, and walks away. Like he shunned him he's like, get away, flea, like, fuck off.
And look, you can see the comment on the screen right now, BSBLR with this big post. And however you say that name, J something 1213. Cora does the same fucking thing. Yeah, everyone's using that excuse until they figure out how to get rid of that excuse. And you think that's a thing now. We talked to who? Scherzer about it. Get ready for the playoffs. The company that makes PitchCom is going to freak out and be like, guys, did we make a device that doesn't work? Oh, no, sorry. Every player's just faking it so that they can buy a few extra seconds.
They do. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, AJ.
No, I'll let you guys know because we got them for the high school, so I'll let you know if they work or not.
Ooh.
Sorry about it.
Yeah, but I need loud noise.
What a humble brag.
I knew Kratz would love that.
One time, teach the kids how to call a pitch.
We did, but we don't want them stealing it. Hey, I do have a funny story though. You'll love this about PitchCom. We were playing a team, and I'm not going to say the team, but they'll know if anyone watches this. They had PitchCom, and their whole infield was travel ball. And we had a kid get on second, and he was going like this to our hitters, and he was like, fastball, breakable. And the other team's like, damn, how do they know what we're calling? Because they weren't giving signs. They were using PitchCom. The shortstop in his hat, it was so loud, and there's no one at these games. He could hear the call in the shortstop's hat behind him trying to hold him on. So our kids were getting on second. They're like, fastball, curveball. It was great.
That's tremendous. But you heard it. I've been calling for it the whole year. You've been calling for the free timeouts. I've been calling for fans, get into this. Like they call it all the time in football. They have stuff on the scoreboard, 3rd and 10 in, 15-yard line. It is epic. They're making stadiums tighter to get the fans so loud you can't hear. They're going to like silent snap counts and all that stuff. Lorenzen said it in the no-hitter. He couldn't hear. He said he was up to level 20. So PitchCom has to figure this out, that it's going to not work. Fans need to take advantage of it.
I think the next thing is, I agree. I mean, Whit Merrifield called for it like the first week of the season. He was like, fans here for the opposing pitcher should be doing a 5 count when it's really still like 10 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, and then
get into it.
It's going to get in your head even if you're ignoring it. I mean, you guys tell me, right? Like, it's going to get in some pitchers' heads if you got 40,000.
Some pitchers. I don't think Kendall Graveman. Kendall Graveman's probably got a sign system worked out. Maldonado's ahead of the game there. But if you're going to call out your fan base, like if you want to be a really good fan base, you're doing this in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's one word that should tell you that you can make a difference. Queta.
Oh, jeez. When are we going to hear the pitcher, the home pitcher, like they do the quarterbacks when they get behind the center? They're like,
yes.
Home. Green, some that's a hot. And they're all like, shh, shh. Right? I need to see a pitcher take them out and go, shush the crowd right before a big pitch. Because guess what? I can't hear the pitch com in my ear.
AJ wasn't a quarterback. AJ
No, you
wasn't.
can tell, right?
He was
doesn't
like,
have it.
I don't know what
Yeah.
he was doing. He
Well,
was
no,
playing
because I can't go all the way
keyboard.
wide. Look, because if I go all the way wide, you can't see what I'm doing. I just look like a bird
Now
flapping
you're just
my wings.
angels in the outfield.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
woo, right? So I had to do it so everyone could see what I was doing.
Right. AJ is a broadcaster, not a quarterback.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
Hey, great IT's out.
Also, check out BSBLR on IG for the latest and greatest baseball content on social media. Also, check out their merch at BSBLR.com. One more quick thing, too, AJ. So I feel like if this was up to him and he was like, well, we got to fix this, the pitchers can't hear anymore, he would be like, oh, well, let's just shock them.
Ow! Was that two?
I'm not going to say anything, but kind of like some part of me right now that just won't stop shocking me.
Very, very
somewhere
inside
around
joke.
this area.
All I'm going to say now is a line that I learned from my favorite player, AJ.
That was awesome, by the way.
That
was better than the response I was hoping he would give.
That's when you know, though, because it was really nice for Kendall Graveman to say he's following the show closely, and for him to say AJ means he's following the show. Because when you follow a show enough that you feel like you know the people, that's when it hits. It's cool. So thanks for being part of the FT fam. I tell a lot of people, there are a lot of players and industry people that are keeping track of what's going on.
Yeah, I went on the field for one game. I don't go on the field as much as AJ does with the White Sox and doing all the stuff in the clubhouse with Fox. But I just randomly saw Emilio Pagan, who I played with for a minute, and Caleb Thielbar, who I played with for a minute.
And we haven't had either of them on the show.
In Japan, and Pagan comes up and he's like, I've been watching, dude, this show has been awesome. I was like, all right, man, like, we'll have you on. Like, I told him, I was like, middle relievers from Minnesota, maybe not really top on our list right now.
Hey, we need Thielbar on.
I want both of them on.
He's a great story, and also somebody was his favorite player. Sorry about it.
Oh, stop it.
That is, he's from Minnesota, and I was right in those prime years, and he told me and Minkiewicz were, he's like, because Doug was his manager, and he's like, I get to play with one of my favorite players when I was growing up. And I walked in and they were playing in Indianapolis to talk to Doug. And he says, oh my gosh, now I get my favorite player and almost my favorite player in Minkiewicz. So
what a cast of characters.
Let's go, Caleb.
Your two favorite players, Pierzynski and Minkiewicz.
He likes Polish people.
Who make some noise. All right, let's look back for a moment to some action from yesterday, some headliners. So first off, the losing continues for the Yanks. I will say this, because they've lost nine straight, and now you're going to get all the history stuff popping up because they really have been so successful for such a long time. So it's like, oh, it's their 9th straight loss. First time that's happened since 1982. I think there's only 2 players in the league, right? Like Rich Hill and Wainwright, who were even born by that time when the Yanks had a losing streak like this. I personally don't give a shit anymore because they're not in the playoffs. So I'm like, whatever. I mean, it's not even just the draft pick part. It's like, and they're doing it. You're going to call up players that are going to get their shot. You might go through some growing pains. We'll say this on the Yanks end, you don't get to do this. So take advantage of that. For a team that's always in it, you don't get to say, hey, you know what? We don't know if this guy's ready, or we're going to give this guy more playing time than we usually would, but we need to see what we got for 2024. There's an advantage to that for the future. If you're going to suck, like, it's fine. I don't care what the wins and losses are. Like Mets fans, I mean, I still have one of my text groups where they're like, because they beat Atlanta. What was that? The first game of that series, I think they beat Atlanta. And they're like, are we about to? I'm like, stop it.
Stop.
Like,
Stop.
We're about to go on a run.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Don't let those Mets get hot to finish almost 500.
Get the fuck out of here. So I will say, like, this is a different time period for Yanks fans, but you should have fun with it and see what the young kids can do.
When was the last time they did this? 2016.
Yeah.
They called up El Gary, hit 20 pumps. They called up Tyler Austin, who's now in Japan, and they called up Aaron Judge. Like, they did the same kind of thing. They were out of it. They traded Chappie for Aroldis Chapman for Glaber, and they got an opportunity to do this. This is something that is underutilized or under talked about in New York. You don't get a chance to call guys up to see if they're going to do okay. And this is why I will, and I know them as people, I will fight to say Cashman and Boone should not lose their job, because they have been doing this for this long. There's been so much success. And I know the bar is so much higher, but when you see an organization like the White Sox lose their GM and their vice president of fun and games, and if you go ahead and fire Cashman, you don't think they'd be like, I actually think we would kind of like that guy. He's kind of done an awesome freaking job.
The White Sox?
I know the White Sox are getting their Chris
They already
Getz
have
and Dayton Moore. I
their
know,
plan in place.
but you don't
As a
think
White
other
Sox
organizations-
fan, I'd take Brian Cashman as my GM. I'm just saying.
Hell
So
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like how much do you want to? Yes, I understand. As a Yankees fan, you are pissed at what's going on this year. We should be better. They're not. Don't overreact. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Mhm.
Don't understand why we're talking about since 1982. They haven't lost 9 games. Like there's a reason. So there's a track record there of these guys. Aaron Boone is the highest winning percentage of any manager to start his career. Brian Cashman has missed the playoffs, not including this year, 1 time in his tenure. And people will say, well, they buy everybody, blah, blah, blah. They set a culture that wins. And you got to kind of run it back. If the same thing keeps happening, and some people will say, well, it's happened for the last 200 games. If the same thing keeps happening next year, it's okay to be like, dog, you're on notice. Like, you can get fired. But I think they've done an incredible job, and I don't know what these prospects that get called up are going to give them, but they're going to find out.
I will say, I'll basically echo what you're saying for the Cardinals, AJ, because for as messy as it's been for them this year, they've been a playoff contender every year, and they've won chips. What else do you want in terms of the roster construction? Yeah, this year it didn't work. They didn't adjust well to the new rules. Their defense kind of fell apart. They are not looking for swing and miss guys as much as most teams, and they were very public about that. So in my mind, same thing. I mean, the amount of like social media observing that I'm doing, and even just like listening to fans on other networks and stations talk about, say, the Cardinals and how it's like an utter disaster. I'm like, okay, it's been a massive disappointment for your team this year, but let's pump the brakes, okay? Like if anyone told me that they're in the playoffs next year, there would be zero surprise from me.
Also, let's not forget Mosaic. Say what you want about Mo and his bow ties, but he already came out and said, we need 3 starting pitchers this year. We're changing the philosophy of the organization. That's what you want to hear as a fan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're making the necessary changes. Not, again, I hate to pick on the White Sox, but what you would always hear from the White Sox GM that just got let go, oh, we're doing everything right. We're going to have multiple parades from this group of guys. And then it doesn't work out. And they're like, well, it's not our fault. We put the players there, right? It's Mosaic's like, listen, need to make changes in the organization. We need to bring in different kinds of pitchers. We need at least 3 free agent pitchers. When's the last time a team went into the offseason, before the offseason, and said, we need 3 pitchers on the free agent market or via trade? Usually they're like, we'll find someone. We talked to, Ken and Jesse about the White Sox. They're like, well, they can go out and find someone via trade. The Cardinals are like, screw that. We need 3 dudes, and we need different types of pitchers. That's refreshing if you're a Cardinals fan, because give Jose a lot of credit. At least he's trying, and he knows what the misses are instead of being arrogant about it. And I think Cashman does that very well too. Cashman knows when he misses, and hence why he'll make changes in the organization and try to get better for 2024.
Yep.
And I'll say on the Cardinals front too, because fans are even like, oh, they're giving away their leverage, saying they need 3 stars. I'm like, shut up.
You know what talks?
Money talks. It does not matter.
And the history of the St. Louis Cardinals, people understand. And Kratz never played there. I got to play there for a couple months. The atmosphere in St. Louis is just different than any other place that I played. They just treat people differently. The city treats people differently. They're Cardinals players. And it means something when you're a player and you go there and I was walking down the street. I hadn't been there for 2 days. I'm walking through the street with my family, and I had like 10 people come up to me and say, oh my gosh, we're so glad you're here. And I'm like, how the hell do you even know who I am? Like, this is like noon on an off day. I'm just walking around randomly. It's just a different place, and players know this.
That's probably why the fan bases get emotional. But you also have to take a little check and say, okay, are we jaded right now? Because I'll take you to the next squad. The Mariners have won 8 in a row, and as Kendall Graveman, the Mariners, yes. And as Kendall Graveman reminded us, they hadn't made the playoffs in over 2 decades, okay? So they'd love to trade places with Cardinals fans over the last 20 years. If you're on the podcast crowd right now, we're looking on YouTube at the updated standings. Texas, Houston, Seattle, separated by 1 game. Love it.
That's what we're here for.
That's so good. I mean, one of those teams now, they fall apart a little bit, might not make the playoffs because Toronto's still there and they're not going anywhere in my mind either. And they're fighting for a playoff spot. Now Toronto's on the outside looking into a playoff position at the moment. Tampa Bay, like we've talked about, they should hold on. You're going to get at least 1 out of the AL West. And then you've still got a chance that Texas right now, which is playing their worst baseball of the season, now it's at 6 and Bochy starting to speak out like, yo, it's time right now. What's going on? You fall apart a little bit right now. The Rangers, for all they do, might end up on the outside looking in of a playoff spot.
Is this like kind of like a water levels out kind of thing? The Rangers' strength of schedule to finish the season is low. It is super easy schedule until the last 6 games. But maybe the Rangers and Houston, they had the meeting. Houston had the meeting. We can't be worrying about what other guys do. Maldonado, being the leader that he is, no C on his chest, but there should be a C on his chest, said it. And I just, 1, I love it. 2, I love that you're looking like you're so smart because
oh, really?
You're following your Seattle Mariners, and they're doing what they're supposed to do all year, and everything is trending up for them to the point where that schedule lines up that essentially if that's who they're playing, the other guys have to are playing a tougher schedule the rest of the way. And maybe they had an easy schedule early, without going back and looking at it. Just, the Rangers are 31-31 against teams above 500. Houston is 32-36, teams above 500. So there's something to be said about that. As far as if there's some, BetMGM easy money of who's going to win the division, I think right now you might still get some nice plus money from the Mariners. And I think it's going to be exciting to watch the rest of the way because they're built to be strong the whole way with their starting rotation having so many innings and their bullpen being legit.
Mariners are done playing the White Sox after today. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that helps. The rest of the division. For the Rangers, though, so I'm just looking at, they still have, the Twins coming up.
2 weekends in a row, they have the Twins.
Yeah, 2 weekends in a row. I know you know that because you got one of those series.
A lot of strikeouts.
Max on Saturday.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Oh, he lined up perfectly for me. Thank you, Max. Love you.
Yeah, they've still got. I mean, there's some Angels in there. There's some A's in there, but there's Houston. There's a lot of Seattle and Texas down the stretch of the season. They had 2 series out of their last 3. It's Seattle at home, then they hit the road and take on an Angels team that obviously will be toast, but not an easy team to take on. Trout's back now for the Angels, so they're 500-ish, maybe a little under, right?
Who of the three, if they don't make it, is going to get ripped the most for it? Seattle?
Astros.
Yeah, they've done it every year. There's too much talent there. I think that would be a big shock. The Rangers weren't supposed to be here necessarily yet. I think they were like, oh, they could surprise some people and sneak a wild card. And then I think the reinforcements from them at the trade deadline really said, hey, screw this. Our time is now, which I love because many other teams didn't do that. And then for Seattle, I mean, they were not in a good spot up until recently. So, yeah, I would agree
Houston
with AJ.
Decimated by their starting rotation.
Yeah, but look.
Still the Astros.
They won the World Series last year. They're going to be the most disappointment because of that lineup.
It's JV, it's Framber, it's Javier. I mean, Hunter Brown. They're still dudes in that rotation.
Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez, Maldonado, Pena, Tucker, McCormick. The list goes on and on.
That's what I mean. Their lineup.
Their bullpen, true. Presley's still there. They got Graveman now. I mean, to me, Susan Waldman said it at the beginning of the year. Are the Astros still in the league? Then the Yankees can't win. I mean, everyone picked the Astros to win. Nobody. The Rangers are a surprise. I don't care. I mean, I know we're deep into the year, but nobody thought the Rangers would be in first place on August 23rd. Nobody did. And the Mariners, I mean, the only person in the world on this show that picked them was Scott, just because he was coming off his EDM music, and he picked them in San Diego because he was out in Peoria dancing with his pink glasses on, going, right? But other than that, not a lot. I mean, everyone picked the Astros to not only win the division, but probably repeat as World Series champion. So the Astros by far the surprise if they don't make it.
But if Seattle loses, let's say Seattle loses by one game, they don't make the playoffs by one game. DePoto traded away Seawald. Like,
oh, trust me, I am going to
but that's
hang
not,
that over their head.
That wasn't
the
question. That wasn't the question. The question was, who's the most disappointing if one out of these three if they don't make it? And it's the Astros because of the history of
most surprising.
What is it? 6 straight LCSs they've been in,
God.
Right? I mean, 6 straight LCSs. I don't know how many World Series, four World Series or something. Whatever the numbers are, it's the Astros.
Tons of playoff shares. For Bracamonte, their bullpen catcher.
Many people living off
He's
that.
everywhere.
Yeah. You want a good gig. I don't want to throw the rumor out. I'll pick another time. I have a rumor on that, but I don't want to do it right now. All right, let's play Immaculate Grid, shall we?
Ooh.
We haven't played in a few days. There are many calls from our fan base that say we would like this to be an everyday thing. It's very difficult to squeeze 90 guests, 90 topics, and Immaculate Grid into every show, but we do our best.
We can hit the grid.
Yeah, let's hit the gritty. We got, and I'm at Kratz's spot, and you have a tiny monitor, so you're going to have to help me out. But I do see Pittsburgh, Oakland, and Atlanta down the left side.
Brock Holt, first one. Pirates, Red Sox.
Okay. Start strong. So Boston, Cincinnati, and I legit can't see. What's the column today?
200 plus strikeout season.
200 plus Ks. That's not swinging, so I'm not in there.
All right, let's get after it, everyone.
Brandon Moss, A's, Red Sox.
Wow. Also, AJ or someone else, read me the percentages too.
0.9. That was 0.9%.
Yep.
0.5?
What was Brock? What was Brock?
2.
Brock was like a 2. Okay.
2.
Praise Red Sox.
John Smoltz.
No. Don't do that.
You think a lot of people would pick that?
Nobody would think. Nobody remembers Smoltz pitch for the Red Sox, I don't think.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
No.
No. Okay.
I liked the conviction from AJ.
Mm-hmm. You could go Pierzynski.
Pierzynski?
No, Smoltz, dude. I'm more recent than Smoltz. People forget Smoltz. See, 1%.
1%? No way
AJ.
Smoltz is. No way.
Under that? Let's look. I'm going to look on my phone while we're doing this.
Yeah,
okay, fine. You check on your phone. All right, now we need to hit the Reds column. Todd Father?
We could go Todd Father.
Little Pittsburgh style. Yes. Love that.
Is this the foul territory grid or the Immaculate Grid?
11. That's too high.
Ooh.
Yeah, too high. Smoltz was 13, by the way. 13%.
Okay, good. So he's more famous than you.
Oh, we know that.
Yes.
He's got different. We all are in Hall of Fame. He's just in the big one.
He's in a different. You're in the Polish Hall of Fame.
Yes. We could go Johnny Gomes, Reds, A's.
Man, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Or Reds, Braves could be Johnny Gomes.
Little deuce. Little deuce.
What's the number?
2.
2.
Okay.
I like that.
Cincinnati, Atlanta.
Michael Tucker.
Ooh. Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I was going to ask if Charlie Culberson played for the Reds. Oh, Michael Tucker. Wow. 0.5.
0.5. Impressive, AJ. All right. 200 plus Ks. Give me randomness, though. Give me randomness.
I mean, if you're going like A's, you could go like way back, you know? I mean,
like Vida Blue. I don't know their stats, though.
Yeah, but those guys are names. Vida's a name. Like, can I give you one for A's?
Yeah.
That's kind of random, but I don't know. Maybe I'm off here. So John Lester, just because it's like, oh, people forgot he played for the A's or no?
But he didn't have 200 plus Ks for them the whole season.
Them.
It has to be for that team only.
See, that's what I don't know. I don't know.
Test it out on your phone.
Yeah, you want me to see? I mean, Pirates, again, that's another one. You could go like, what was his name?
Draybeck.
Yeah, I mean,
Kent Colby.
Liriano was never a star. Was he a starter
Francisco
for the Pirates?
Liriano?
Francisco Liriano
he
was,
a
but
starter.
I don't know if he got 200 in that All-Star season.
I like Draybeck.
Yeah, Draybeck's an older guy. I mean, you could go.
But he's a Cy Young, so you sit there and you go, Kent Colby, did he have enough?
No, he was a reliever.
Right, but that was in the day when it was like he was throwing 5-inning saves.
True.
From down here. I'm not saying he got 200. That's my without cheating. What about a random
give me like a 1970s or like when Bill Mazeroski won the World Series. Like a Pittsburgh Pirates starter. Yeah, like give me one of those guys.
Those were the only old guys they would bring around would be Mazeroski, DeColby.
What about like Bob Walk? What about him?
It's a good one. Well, he's their broadcaster though.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know if he.
There's notoriety involved here that even I think even if you look back and go, oh, it's been a while, like he's very much ingrained in the franchise still.
Yeah.
So
let's do Liriano.
Francisco Liriano.
Okay.
Plus it works for this grid since it's all about FT, and Francisco Liriano was once traded for somebody on the set.
True. What was he at? 8?
8, yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's a big one because he was not a guy that people remember.
But it's recent. Is he in a Twins hat in that picture too?
Yeah, dude, come on.
That's when I shot him.
Ooh.
He was still.
Can we get one, celeb shot from a fan here?
Let's get a shout out.
D-Rod said 200K Braves, Avery.
I was gonna say one of those guys that
because it's like
Steve Avery.
He was the fourth wheel at one point, right?
But again, I don't know if he had 200.
If he hit 200K,
he didn't make it. He didn't make it. We just got a red. Whoever just wrote that in, you're fired.
You're fired.
D-Rod, come on. I love D-Rod.
Okay, well, D-Rod and Kendall Graveman are on your list. They're not on me and AJ's list.
D-Rod, you have making up to do next time. Oh man.
You can always go Hudson, Mulder, Zito. I mean, those three are too easy.
So basic though.
Yeah, we don't be mid. Are we on the time slot today, or are we?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, we do.
Oh, we do have.
You could go all the way back to like Catfish Hunter or someone like that. I mean, there's a million dudes. What about like a Mike? What was Mike Moore, Bob Welch? Like those dudes punched out everybody in the runs.
Cold Night Train Johnson.
Cy Young? Didn't Cy Young play for the Philadelphia A's?
Right, that's what I mean. Like,
let's try that because we already got kind of screwed on one miss. Can we just try that?
Cy Young? Didn't he play for the Philadelphia A's?
Without looking, I don't know.
I think so.
Let's try it.
It feels right.
Let's try it. We're the White Sox now.
Yeah.
We're not making the playoffs. No, we missed.
Oh, we missed. Shit. Never mind.
Right. We tanked.
We sold.
Yeah. But we did good. Essentially, we had like a under 30 there.
D-Rod ruined us because if D-Rod wouldn't have gave us that answer, we would have tried a little harder.
Well, once
we would have tried hard.
One loss, I'm just like me.
Yeah, always.
Then you just go for it and try random shit. All right, so we did okay. Thanks for playing along. Our immaculate grid. We lost a little steam down the stretch there. We also had just so much energy and tension at the beginning of this show today. So
the White Sox should have been. The White Sox should have been on there. Just for the day, they should have been on the immaculate grid for something positive
how
for
are
the
they
White Sox.
To orchestrate it that way? I'm sure this is put together in advance.
I'm sure it's some guy who's like,
it's all computerized these days.
That's it.
All right, what do you got? Who's got? I know you have shades today, AJ.
Always have shades, kid.
All right, let's see them. No, those are not Shady Rays.
That's close.
Those are my glasses.
Wait, am I playing GM or not GM?
No, you clearly aren't the GM. So there was actually an opening that you could have been the GM. So there you go.
Could have worn my Shady Rays.
You're just Costa Rica.
All right, so
AJ.
let's do it uniquely this way, okay? So we want you all to have quality shades that are built to last, and Shady Rays has you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. So, AJ, if you're the GM of the White Sox, are you totally scrapping it down and starting over? There's so many fan questions specifically about guys like Robert and Dylan Cease. You're totally starting over again?
Didn't I say they should have traded Cease at the trade deadline?
Yeah,
Didn't
of
I
course.
say on this very show, blow it the fuck up and start over? Did I not say that?
You did.
Jerry's not going to do it.
What's changed? What's changed? They've only gotten worse. What's changed? Why would we change now? I know Jerry's not going to do it. He's already proven that if he hires Dayton Moore and Chris Getz. We've established that. But you asked me what I'm doing if I'm the GM. I'm starting over, and I'm telling Jerry it's going to take at least 3 rebuilds to get this done. So therefore, I get a 15-year contract, and I'm good.
Such a.
If you don't love your wait, ready for this? If you don't love your Shady Rays,
if you don't love your Rays, you just rebuild, and Shady Rays will rebuild them for you, and you get 5 more for free.
Well, you can exchange for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. No risk when you shop for Shady Rays. As for the GM of your ball club, especially if it's with the White Sox, you're usually locked in for 20 years?
It's 20 years. There's a health benefit of some kind for the rest of your life. 20 years.
So, with that being said, exclusively for the FT fam, you hit up shadyrays.com and use the code FOUL, F-O-U-L, for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Shady Rays' best deal of the season. So, try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. See, that's fun. Back in my old job, I dreamed of days when I could do a minute like that. Where I could be friends with our partner, our sponsorship partner, and I could also then mix in the disaster that continues on the south side of Chicago. Kratz, you look like you're in the Sandlot or something.
You guys,
you
guys want to be a GM? You guys want to be a GM?
All right, on that note, we do have some news, so let's slap hands.
These are the dirtiest news ever. Well, you know nothing. You work for the White Sox. That's a strike.
When you travel as much as I do, everything I have has been through a lot at this point. We are in late August.
You take your glasses off with your fingers on the lenses like a 2-year-old
while sitting on the wing of the plane that I'm on, just taking hits. All right, so we do have news in case you missed it the other day. Kratz and I, again, will be sitting next to each other for Thursday's show. We will be on location in Somerset, New Jersey, near my hometown. I grew up in Warren, New Jersey, big old Warren. I used to work for the Somerset Patriots back in the day. This will be a homecoming. And no, I never played. I was the on-field host with a mic, but Kratzy's coming with me because he was part of the Yanks organization. Somerset's AA for the Yanks. And Kratz is going to throw out the first pitch, and we have a lot more planned. We're going to do the show from there from 1 to 3. AJ will still be in studio. AJ will bring on some of their prospects. It's going to be a good time, so make sure you tune in. And if you feel like you enjoy us hitting the road, we'll try and do that more frequently, as we do, obviously, to Atlantic City, which will be there on Friday. Corbin Burns is going to join us for tomorrow's show, and then we'll get some Yanks minor league prospects, too. So looking forward to that. And, Twitter loves AJ Pierzynski. Is that how we want to finish here?
They do.
That's way too small for me to read.
Wow.
Can you read it?
It says White Sox introduced new GM Chris Getz. Oh, wait, no. It's not what it says, but
White Sox introduced new GM AJ Pierzynski. Coming to a tweet near you. I think I called for that too, but my Kratz hats today is a team that's in a perpetual rebuild. But I got called up to the show. So this is my first ever show hat right here. I got a bunch of Pirates hats that I
is that 3? Hold on, not to interrupt because you're talking about your call.
No, you're good.
But is that 3 words though?
It is.
3
AJ.
That's okay. I didn't know if that was. I mean, I don't know
the
who
word. It's a letter representing a word, which is a name.
Yeah, but there's 2 ways that it shows up on Baseball Reference. Some are AJ, and some are A.J. Pierzynski.
Do I get to combine those for double my WAR in my career?
Yes. What do you go by, AJ or AJ? Like AJ with 2 dots or AJ without?
I mean,
Never
2 dots and a dash.
And a dash.
Great bar in Chicago, just saying. It's 3 dots and a dash, actually.
I was like,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that Midwest
3 dots and a dash, great bar in Chicago. I'm just saying.
2 World Series in a.
pick one. People have asked me before. I'm like, I think
mean,
you could go either
even if
way.
if I'm writing it, it's J. But if I'm signing, there's no dots. Or if I'm typing it, there's
Perfect.
no dots.
Okay.
So the answer is
Both.
either one. Both.
Either one.
Either one works. And he's not running the White Sox. He is running foul territory with us every day.
Yet.
Okay.
My world
Good luck.
domination has not begun yet.
Good luck overtaking Tony La Russa's power right now. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This was a good one today. We will see you in Somerset, New Jersey for FT Live on Thursday.
Oh, and Hawk texted to Kenny and Rick. He gone.
You gone.
You guys were mean, man.